Hello again, Cancer. Dadhichi here. May 2014 comes around pretty quickly, and this is your monthly horoscope. I want to, rather than chronologically look at all of the aspects, although I'll touch on a few of them, to focus on a very important celestial event that's occurred recently, the movement of the karmic North Node into one of the foundational areas of the horoscope, the fourth sector of the horoscope, which has to do with family, domestic issues, and to my way of seeing it, your inner happiness. And as well as having this very tremendous amount of power shifting to this area, you've also got the ambitious Mars transiting through this part of your horoscope for some time. It's going to be a very, very long period, for quite a few months. So we see this very dynamic Mars and coupled up now with the North Node, showing that there's an ambition to really shift things in this part of your life. Now, mind you, there's a very hard aspect, what we call a right angle or square, to the planet Pluto in your seventh sector. And that can sometimes indicate that the way you handle these shifts may not be quite the best way. In other words, there could be some anger surrounding that. You know, if you had a house there and you wanted to, take the bricks down one by one gently, the alternative is to just get a sledgehammer and smash it down. And I'm seeing that as perhaps the simile or the analogy that would show what's likely to happen in trying to make these changes in your life too forcefully. Some of the people around you are not going to be able to cope with the way you changed just now. Change is really the key word for some of these aspects. And whilst this North Node is moving into the pivotal fourth sector, or the domestic sector of your horoscope, we see the past karmic point moving through the career or professional sector of your horoscope. And the other intense, sudden, abrupt, unexpected force of Uranus is there as well. So we see, and in particular, there's a very, very powerful opposition of Mars to Uranus later in the month. I'll get to that. But it's important to note the powerful forces along these critical angular sectors of your horoscope. So how you deal with this energy is going to be foundational to what's happening over the next 18 months, because these karmic forces, they're not actually planets, they're karmic points of energy, are going to be spending considerable time there, and you need to know how to deal with those energies. If you deal with these energies in the proper way, then some amazing spiritual growth will take place. In Hindu astrology, they say these karmic points, along with Saturn, the Sun, and Mars, are separative in influence. What we mean by that is that they take you away from the traditional sort of area in which they operate. So in this case, family is a very strong keynote for this area. And it's quite likely some of you may need to be forcefully taken away, or yourselves, especially those of you with the sledgehammer, will smash that down and take yourselves out of that situation. Now, that may be necessary, especially if you've been emotionally thwarted, if you've been emotionally abused, and of course, Cancer, you are one of the more sensitive signs, ruling the emotional dimension of the human being. So I think some of you are going to be in for a rather challenging period with these transits as I see them. But, the element of water, as the Taoists say, is a very, very hard element to beat. Water can't be cut or contained, In fact, the Taoist masters say one should become like water. The tallest wall can't obstruct water. Water just sort of quietly fills up and then flows over the wall. So I think you get my point. Water's flexible, it's fluid. So I think these elements of your nature are what give you the strength to handle these really life-changing celestial forces that are impinging upon you right now. There are other factors here that I see in your horoscope as well, but only against the background of this very important transit that we see now. For example, the Sun opposite Saturn on the 11th of May, and on the same date, Venus opposite Mars. Now, I wanted to talk about that. The first one is one of great responsibility and difficulty in friendships. So these are personal relationships of all sorts that Venus and Mars are very passionate and impulsive aspect, again influencing the area of your work and your family, showing that you may be at odds or torn between these areas, a conflict of interest, divided loyalties perhaps, as shown by this. And of course the Mercury in hard aspect to Neptune on the same date again, leading up to this date, I should say rather, shows the confusing idealistic tendencies that you may have. You're possibly trying to be too many things to too many people. You need to hold your ground, decide who you are, what you want, rather than having other people dictate to you what they want you to be. And that again may also be a component of the karmic transit that we see in the fourth sector. When people change and this affects their lives, then they don't like that. They want to keep the status quo. So this is a time when you're going to be changing and other people aren't going to be able to cope with that. They're not going to be as flexible as you. They're certainly not going to be the element of water. So I hope that makes some sense to you. I do see the transit of Venus in the 10th generally giving good results, bringing with it a renewed sense of joy in the type of work you do. The problem you have this month, Cancer, is the hard aspects that we see from some of these other planets. So could that be you really are enjoying the work you're doing, but there's all these other little bushfires that you're having to put out. You need to be creatively clever in how you continue to enjoy your work whilst satisfying all of these other people that are demanding their pound of flesh. Some other very nice aspects later in the month, 25th, 28th and 31st of May, the Jupiter aspect to Saturn in the 5th, that's a rather pendulum type aspect. Jupiter's expansive, we see Saturn as a little constrictive, but it's a favourable aspect there to the sector of love affairs, so it could basically bring some stability in that area of your life. The sextile from Mercury to Venus, this shows some clever little manoeuvres on your part, working behind the scenes to bring a project to fruition. And then that final aspect, it's a dynamic physical aspect on the 31st, Sun and Mars. Again, 12th house and 4th house, but this just shows you're possibly able to lift your physical vitality through exercise, proper diet, and that's something I would certainly advise, especially if you're dealing with all these other forms of energy and different personalities in your life at this time. I hope to see you here next month. Don't forget to stop by astrology.com.au. You'll get a bit more insight into these topics, a few other topics as well, the textual based forecast for the daily, monthly and yearly events in question. And take care till I see you here again next month. Bye bye.